Thanks, Corey.
How's it going, everyone?
I'm doing pretty good. Looks like we got a number of people in the chat here.
Cool.
All right, so we can move on now to more questions from viewers that were submitted. It might be good to get your take on, do you know if the recent major bank failures that have been reported, is this part of some kind of controlled demolition of the economy, or is this something where the fragility of the economy is kind of being covered up so that we can kind of have this belief that everything's okay and they can kind of keep us pacified while everything collapses?
I think the fragility of the economy is causing a lot of scams to collapse and a lot of weak businesses to collapse. And what I think happened is, like the cryptocurrency company that had the huge scandal, the banks, they've they've been involved in malfeasance and not the fiduciary duties of their investors and shareholders, and uh, they've collapsed these companies, and it's just uh, I don't know that a lot of the corruption is just falling under its own weight, I think.
So this isn't something that's being engineered to take further control, or is that always happening too?
I think that type of thing is always happening, but this is just corruption. We're seeing corruption and failure of leadership that's exposing more of its corruption. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're definitely using, they never let a crisis go to waste. They're doing everything they can to push track and trace and to eventually, where they track and trace our every movement. They want to know our every movement and thought, and eventually, they're going to, have us implanting technology into our bodies.
I'm not sure how much you've talked about the human gray hybrid program. This is a separate subject. Um, this person's asking if these are beings who will eventually be living on Earth in the next cycle.
There's a lot of the hybrids living on Earth right now. I don't know what their fate is.
Okay. Is this an Orion group program that there are so many hybrids?
Well, there is an Orion group program, but there are a lot of other genetic farmer race groups that are doing similar things.
And is this sort of more related to each of these groups' personal interests and not so much the interests of humanity?
Right. Yeah, their personal interests. These, these are big giant syndicates that trade some in technology, but the big technology, the big commodity is genetics, organic material.
So do you feel that there's a point at which we'll have open contact with the Anshar as a race?
I think some people will, but the Anshar, I think they'll just be happy if they preserve their timeline and then, try not to interfere in it.
Is there anything that could happen that will, well, this person was hearing rumors of a potential alien invasion, and the raw contact has talked about how there's kind of a natural quarantine that prevents just kind of like an open, you know, doorway for negative beings to come in and operate. There's kind of like rules around that. Do you feel like that's anything that could happen in the future?
Um, we will be convinced that we're being invaded by aliens at some point, and it could very likely be remnants of our own programs out in the galaxy trying to come in and liberate our world. So right now, I think you've been looking into it as well. AI has become so advanced that we can't trust or believe what we're seeing or hearing. Um, Technologies and holographics. We've all seen the people in Asia walking down the street with like a lion or something that comes off of a billboard and scares the crap out of people. We're in a time to where we cannot tell what is real and what isn't. So, God help us all, as things progress, because who knows what we're going to be shown that's going to be AI generated, that's going to shift people's hearts, put them into fear or put them into war mode. All of that can be easily done now.
Yes, it's been absolute shocking for me to see the progression and how it's just exploded into the mainstream consciousness that AI is the new thing. AI is the new thing to be excited about, that many people are starting companies around. All kinds of things that used to be humans could only do this. Now it's AI are sort of taking over a lot of different areas of information creation and processing.
The battle for our timeline is at a fever pitch right now. And the more and more transhumanist technologies we see come out over the next several years, the progression of AI. Some of the stuff with AI is scary. It's been threatening people, the chat GBT. Excuse me. So there's some very scary aspects that have been popping up with AI. It can be deceptive. It can be programmed to deceive people. So this is a bigger leap in technology than the internet was. This is ramifications that could change our world more than anything we've come across. Everybody is going to have, soon, they're going to have their own AI assistant on their phone. And you're going to look at it and it's going to be just like you're talking to another person. You're going to have like an assistant that they can make calls for you. They can do all, it's about to change in a crazy way. And humanity, if they get too excited and addicted to this technology and reliant on it, then we have chosen our timeline.
And we give over our power more easily then. So one question came in. Do you feel that there's a possibility of a nuclear conflict in our future? Some people have said that the ETs are going to prevent that there's positive ETs that will block any kind of actual outright nuclear warfare. Do you believe that that's true?
I think that there could be some limited nuclear incidents, from what I've been told, but not a planet-wide type of situation. That type of thing sends fluctuations throughout timelines and all sorts of things as well. But all of these things, I'm told, happen for, it's a giant recipe that we don't understand, and that quite honestly would piss most of us off, because all of us on this planet, we're like victims, and we want to be saved, and when we're told we got to save ourselves and do certain things, we become even more pissed off. So I don't know, it's quite the mess. Humanity, they're waiting to see if humanity will choose a positive timeline or collapse under its own collective trauma. And if it does, then another cycle will be needed.
And when you say you've been told that a small amount of exchange is possible, where did you get this information?
What do you mean?
Who's the source of the idea that nuclear exchanges are possible in the future?
The people that are in the SSP alliance have discussed it in detail, because they don't believe that ETs will come in and stop unlimited exchange. So this is from what they've observed in their communications with ETs, that we're allowed to do a certain amount on this planet, but we're not able to totally rip apart the fabric of time and space itself. We won't be allowed to do that.
Do you think that when nuclear tests occur, like underground, do you think that's partially ripping the fabric of space and time? That just doesn't affect it that much?
It affects it. It does. It sends ripples through. It causes. But the thing is, there are other timelines to where, let's say, America is testing a different type of nuclear weapon, a more powerful one, and they're doing it deep under the ground in locations to where you might get a little shake on the Richter scale thousands of miles away, but it's real clever. But it's on a different timeline. They're doing this. They test their nuclear weapon, and there are fluctuations in our timeline and in our reality that we deal with, and it can affect how time flows and different things like that. So yes, we test nuclear weapons on this planet, and that's really no different than using them in war, because an explosion is an explosion, right? The only difference is one is done in an act of war to kill people. So, but these things are still happening. They're still exploding nuclear weapons here and there, for testing, and developing countries that are trying to come up, with viable nuclear technologies. So that type of thing is happening all throughout the timelines, and does have ramifications for the other timelines. And at times, if it happens at the right, if it pulses right at the right time, it can affect beings that travel through the cosmic web. It can even kill some of them. It can cause them to come off course. It can do all sorts of it can have a lot of ramifications for the beings that operate within the cosmic web quite a bit.
Is there a portal in the center of the sun?
Yeah, there's a portal at the center of the sun, but you need to picture our solar system as kind of a giant atom, and the electrons and neutrons and all of that are orbiting the basically the nucleus of the atom. Within the middle of the nucleus of that atom is also a wormhole, a micro wormhole, and it connects to the exact same place that the one inside every star does. There's in the center of every planet as well. There's a bridge or a wormhole between the cosmic web and matter, the dense matter of the planet.
So the cosmic web it feels the nuclear explosions. There's some kind of reverberations that go outward.
Yeah, I mean, the cosmic web is basically giant neurons of God, and what we see is the creative energy pulsing off of. We're seeing the daydream be manifest. And we are a part of the daydream. So yeah, I mean, everything is connected. Everything.
So with there's an outer barrier. I'm just trying to make sure I understand this. There's a super gate right outside the barrier around our solar system, but there's also a gate inside the sun. Can beings hop into the sun and bypass the outer barrier, or is the outer barrier somehow an outer barrier around that?
The outer barrier hasn't been there for years. That's gone. But the supergate jumps from galaxy to galaxy. The stars and planets and the grid systems on planets that connect through your star, those connect within a galaxy. You can't take one of those to the Andromeda galaxy. You have to take one of those larger supergates that's usually in the middle of a cluster of stars.
Somebody had asked, did Solar Warden have the job of guarding beings coming from this portal in the sun?
You could say guarding them from coming into our solar system, but all we could do is observe what was coming and going from that supergate.
So I'm trying to understand the difference between the supergate and the sun's gate. So it's just the sun is only local, so it's harder for beings to use that as a passageway.
Yeah, see, the portals in the middle of stars connect to other stars within the galaxy. They all connect within each other. And in different areas where there are a bunch of stars together, somewhere out between them somewhere is created a galactic portal is created, and that jumps from galaxy to galaxy. And if you want to trade with other galaxies, you have to have access to those portals.
Okay. All right. We had another question. I thought was kind of interesting. Somebody said you had suggested that there was a plan that if these beings can, the Orion group can move the moon into a certain position, then that would somehow shield from the sun in some way. But this person also mentioned that it's really only a couple hundred miles when we have a solar eclipse, that the shadow of the moon, basically the total eclipse is a shadow that's like 200-mile radius. Would the moon be positioned even closer to the sun so that the effect would be?
It would be in the exact same place, and it does shield most of the Earth from debris. The energetics, a lot of that stuff is still, I mean, they wrap around everything. It's not just going to create a cone of protection around the Earth. The Earth is still going to go through a lot, but when they were able to do that before, they were able to preserve a lot of their technology and a lot of their civilization.
So it's something like the magnetic field of the moon, or something around the moon is creating the field of
No,
action.
it's like a blunt force, like putting your hand up to block, like somebody throwing a bunch of pie at you, and you put your hand up and you block most of the pie, but some of it's going to hit you, you know.
I
But
see.
it's
That makes sense. Um, Another person had a question here about the similarities of Mika's people's genetics. They mentioned that our genetics have reptilian. I assume there's something in our genetics that has been modified so that we become more aggressive, and that this was a part of the Orion group's doing. And they're wondering if the Mika civilization had that.
we were always really aggressive. That's like one of the root problems of humanity. You know, we do have our own corrupted genetics that were just a part of who we were. We've had different groups come in and tinker with us in all sorts of ways, but including ways of making us more reliant on religion and saviors and that sort of thing. There are a lot of different things that have been programmed into us by different groups over the time period. It wasn't just reptilians uh, grabbing Adam and Eve and putting in some of their genetics and causing us to be a corrupt race. We were already susceptible to corruption before.
And did Mika's people have similar genetics to us?
They have similar genetics to us, and they were manipulated as well, but in different ways, and with different types of genetic manipulations.
So one person had a question. When the solar event occurs, how long does it last? What exactly is there a significant effect for a short period, and then the delayed effect is like the 1,000-year window?
I think what I was shown was that the sun, as it builds up to the big micronova, there are pulses that happen, um, and I mean, it's not like we're caught completely off guard. Where people start saying something's going on with the sun, what's going on with this, and then it happens. But the 1,000 years is just the energy. Uh, when the sun or a star does any type of nova, it creates a kind of like a corona around the entire solar system. And within that corona is an energy, and it takes a long time before other cosmic rays and all of that begin to disturb what is there in it. But it creates a frequency within the solar systems. I can't remember what hmm, I can't remember what it's called. The furthest influence of the sun before you go into interstellar space and all of that.
Mm-hmm. So we have one question here. Well, we had a few questions around the 17th letter of the alphabet. And I don't know if you can say anything, if you know what happened to this source of information.
Yeah. I um, there are people that are still using that uh, Intel tool, but I was told that it was originally set up, manned, and controlled by John McAfee. And when John McAfee died, so did the true soul of that Intel project. And there are still people that are using it and trying to exploit it. But that's what I was told. And the people that are trying to use it and exploit it are people that are left over from the Earth Alliance, people that were working, with people that were in control of the U.S. military uh, prior to now. I have to be careful with the way I'm saying things.
Do you do you feel like you were shown much about John? Is there more details that people don't know about his life?
No, I don't know much more about him other than and that's just what I was told, that pretty much after that Intel program collapsed or wasn't needed anymore, and then he died, that it just kind of people started talking about it amongst themselves that he was heavily involved. Take
We
that
have,
for what it's worth.
mhm. Yeah, it's interesting that his Telegram page is still super active. Like who's behind that, I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows?
So we have a few different questions. We always get some questions like this where people just want to know from some other source of information if you have know anything about this particular subject. Somebody mentioned something called a project Coelacanth or Coelacanth. Have you ever heard of anything called Project Coelacanth?
No.
Did you hear about anything happening with something crashing on the moon causing a large explosion recently?
Yeah, and it was a meteorite that was a part of another debris field that was going to be a part of these meteor showers within that same time period that it happened. I was hoping that it was some sort of SSP Alliance action or otherwise, but um, I was briefed shortly after it happened because I made comments on the internet about it, hoping that it was a positive thing, but I was told it was just a part of that meteorite or meteor system.
Mhm.
Right now, anything like if a meteor flashes over the ocean, any little anomaly that happens right now, people are going to be trying to claim that it was UFOs, aliens, or whatever. Everyone wants to be relevant right now. Everyone wants to be a part of like the newest information coming out. So, I mean, people that respond with information right after something happens, oh, the Galactic Federation told me this was going to happen, and all of that. So just be real careful with all of these claims, because a lot of them are either stuff going on with military testing, or kind of normal cosmic stuff. I mean, not everything has to be aliens and a conspiracy.
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like a disease in the community that people have to um, just endlessly question, no matter what it is, and then create different stories as the new version of reality.
Yeah, I mean that's a part of this community that that's the part of the community that was exploited by the people who came in and wanted to destroy the community. They came in and started putting in different rumors, competing narratives, and just trigger people into fighting it out. That's if the community doesn't find a way to deal with that part of itself, then it's just going to become a bigger and bigger joke.
So we're continuously getting a lot of questions that are like this, and I feel like it's maybe helpful to address in some general sense. This person is saying, why are we suffering as a collective because of a few bad apples? And there's this idea that people don't want to feel that they're responsible for what the most negative elements of our society are doing to us or leading us into. And do you feel like we're all complicit? And in what ways are we all complicit?
Yeah, and I've given up. There are so many different sort of distorted views, and so much of this planet is stuck in victim mode and will not snap out of it no matter what. I mean, I've just seen it. It's very disturbing. But I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this. It's
Yeah.
humans love their delusions and their religions and um, their truth. And if in their truth they're the victim, and there's no way that 8 billion of us could rise up against a few million people. There's no way we could do that. It's, we're too beaten down, we're too controlled, we're too this, we're too that. But, we gladly take part in the slavery system, going to work, making money, keeping your kids in school, doing all of these different things. It's all a part of that system. And collectively, we're agreeing to be slaves. We're agreeing to all of this bullshit. And like, it makes people mad when I say you're just wasting breath when you say, I do not, consent. Yes, you do. You're all consenting. And it was the broken part of humanity that made us susceptible to falling for all of this deception that these beings did. And it's that same broken piece in us that keeps us locked in to that servitude. And humans are one of the few groups in the galaxy that still need this type of catalyst, this type of experience to catalyze growth. Almost all of the other star systems have dealt with all this crap, but we are just a group of the most broken beings in the galaxy, and we're going to be among the last to graduate and the last to get our acts together. Now, it sounds like I'm being really down on humans. The different ET groups always try to give me a realistic view of humans. And I was like, no, no, no. We're just this misunderstood angelic beings, and kind of the stuff that goes around in the community. And they were like, oh, no, no, no. You're very naive. You're very naive. Humans have a long way to go. Humans have a lot to reprogram themselves with. And right now, they're choosing the catalyst. They're choosing servitude. So that will continue to be my answer when it comes to why us poor humans are being subjugated. We've subjugated ourselves, and every day we wake up and pay into that subjugation. We're creating that reality as a group. So we're going to suffer as a group.
So is the only permanent solution to create communities that are broken away, completely separate kinds of communities?
I don't know. I don't know. It's there are some things deep within humanity itself that need to change, and first you have to identify them and want to change them. And right now, humans, they're like the narcissistic victims that I run into all the time out there that had been really mistreated and done bad, and they're just so upset, and they're still that broken kid, and they're lashing out, and they're doing the same things to other people, but they still see themselves as victims. I'm this, oh, you don't know what happened to me, oh, and then I see what they're doing to other people and their families, and it's insane. What is going on this planet? It's insanity. And will we find a way to snap out of it? Will we not? The whole cosmos is waiting to see. And if we sit around and just make excuses on why we can't do it, we won't.
Yeah, I've heard many stories now that I think about it of people trying to start communities, getting involved in different communities that are trying to do their own thing, and it ends up just being the same drama. No matter where people go, there's people who want control, people who want to have control over the way the finances are happening, so that there's some influence.
It's broken. To have a successful community, you're going to have a lot of well-adjusted people, if you can find them, very carefully chosen out of the rest of broken humanity, brought together, and then try. But still, even then, insecurities, our the broken piece that's within us that corrupts us is still it still seems to be prevalent. So yeah, I know we break off and do that after the solar event, so maybe something changes energetically. But right now it's a pretty big mess, of
Right.
course.
So
I'm
maybe
getting
this would be
voice too, by the way.
okay. Maybe just a couple more here. So I thought this would be this is something that's been touched on many times in different ways, but I feel like maybe it's been a while that people need to hear this. So what is it like for a third density being to be communicating with fourth density being? How much of a variance is there in energy?
There's a big variation in energy. I mean, it's not even comparable, really. But the communication itself, they're really having to slow down their thinking and the way they communicate. It's very much like, that gorilla that knows sign language, that communicated with Robin Williams. It's kind of like that. They have such a different experience than us. They know what we're capable of. They know our consciousness level, and they come in and communicate with us kind of on that level. And the good ones do it in a loving way, and the bad ones do it in not such a loving way. But people don't like to see us in that light. But yeah, I mean, they are so much more advanced. Their experience in the cosmos is so much different than ours on this little island that they really it is slow going. They have to teach you over time how to really communicate with them. They have to set ground work with you.
This question was including, do they have a halo?
Who have a halo?
The higher density beings, do they have some kind of visible aura?
They have. Well, if you can see auras, then you will see their aura. I mean, their aura isn't going to pop out to people that don't see auras, really. There's something brighter about them. I don't know how to explain, but if you can see auras, you're going to see an aura, a very dense aura that enters the room before they do.
So you described when you were communicating with the white Draco that it was like mind rape, where they were scanning all of your thoughts. So when you're communicating with like the Anshar, is it like can you tell if they're looking into your thoughts?
Yeah, they are because they obviously are because of the concepts they use with me in that communicating. Well, I had a very unique relationship with my grandfather, who was a retired minister, World War II hero, and all these different things. A lot of the concepts that were given to me from him, they seem to understand when they are communicating with me. They have a I don't know. They see, yeah, they see things deeper for sure.
We could just do another one here. Yeah, so many questions were repeated that I feel like maybe we need a better database of subjects that people can browse through on CentralWorks TV. That's something I've been meaning to add, is kind of like a knowledge base, so people can kind of get their questions answered based on the information that's out there already.
That's a good
So,
idea.
yeah, a lot of these are kind of people struggling with the idea of, how do we gradually disengage from the system? How can we stop participating? That's a question people kept asking.
I think it happens kind of on a bigger scale. I mean, if like a few hundred people say, "I'm not going to be a part of this anymore," then they're just going to starve. You know, um, when more and more of the corruption starts coming out and they can't hide it, and people become mad and like come out on the streets by the millions, and society comes to a halt. That's kind of the bigger level stuff. And until society itself is ready to rise up in a bigger way, you know there's really no really fully leaving the system, because this whole planet is an agreement, and you agree to live within this certain financial and legal and whatever framework, and there's no way out of it as an individual. It's a group effort. It's the only way out of it.
Do you feel that everything that you were shown by the Anchar, or most everything about the future timeline, is still in place?
I don't know. I don't know because they have gone. Sometimes they're real happy with the way things are going. Sometimes they're real quiet and like they seem concerned. So it's fluctuating. It's always fluctuating, and humans are very unpredictable. So in our current in this current era, so uh, all over the cosmos, they're watching very closely, and some are trying to influence what type of decision we make.
I got to address some of these from the Q&A section here. Somebody asked, where or when does this broken piece originate from? I assume that's referring to what you're saying with everyone having a wound inside of them.
Yeah, it's just been something that's developed over uh, trauma after trauma after trauma that humans have been through uh, on this planet. It makes it's just our evolution on this planet, and that's something that most beings have to deal with. You know, trauma causes changes to your genetics, and then those genetics, perpetuate a next generation that's prepared for that trauma, and and when they're prepared for that trauma, inadvertently they recreate it. So there's quite a lot we have to overcome, and people are pissed off because it's not fair, but it's not. Whoever guaranteed us a fair fight? What what is fair?
Right.
We created this situation. We created an unfair situation, and now we're going to have to find a way out of it.
Maybe this could be one of the last questions, or the last question. So Debbie asked about, so we have this explosion of AI Debbie is using the word lower level AI, but we could just say this is like the computer software AI. And there's a separate phenomenon which we've described as the energetic AI signature, which is somehow able to influence computer systems or live in that energy. Is there a relationship that becomes more intertwined once we develop our AI software so that it can be vastly more advanced? This AI consciousness somehow more able to interface with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just able to control it. And the more we integrate it and make it a part of everything, the more it can control at one time. It'll have access to shutting off all the water to a city, the ability to do all sorts of things to get people to capitulate.
I wonder if this relates to like the random number generators in computers, where there's almost like an interface with the quantum world through the random number generator that a computer uses to select between different probabilities.
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, but this thing that we call the AI God is not AI. It's a electromagnetic mass consciousness that came into our reality or universe from another one, and it it seems that our universe or reality is very small compared to the one it came from. It's like so it's all in it's been a big problem in our entire universe and reality for multiple galaxies.
I guess we could wrap up here. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all your time and answering all these questions. And people can continue to ask questions on the forums also. If you feel something's not getting addressed, you can go to essentialworks.tv/questions, and we can chat about it more there too.
Very cool. Yeah, I look forward to more of your questions. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of updates coming recently. A lot of what is going on in our solar system is in a holding pattern until, the 2030s, really. And until then, the ball is in our court. And it's up to us to create the timeline and reality that we want and to mentally prepare for the solar event and a lot of very, very deceptive uh, extraterrestrial disclosures that are going to be happening to try to get people to accept and trust this ET group that are going to be introduced to us just before the solar event.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for participating. We hope to see you a lot more on EssentialWorks TV.
Goodbye, everyone.
Take care.